I just want to tell the kids real quick that, did you know that Pastor Mark is an author? That's pretty cool. Authors are people that write words and ideas in a story, and you can be an author too. So if you want to write a story and send it to NCC Kids, I would love to read it. I would love to read your story. But tonight we want Pastor Mark to tell us a little bit about his book and, just about writing before he shows us his story tonight. So Pastor Mark, can you tell us a little bit about being an author?
Yeah, well, I was once your age. And some of my earliest memories, probably when I was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years old, I remember my mom and dad, they would tuck me into bed. Now, I don't know if I should share this or not, but when I was little, my big fear was Bigfoot. I was kind of scared of that. And so they would tuck me into bed, and they would just check under the bed, make sure that Bigfoot wasn't there.
Of course.
And then they would pray for me, but they would also read me Bible stories. Mm-hmm. And so I remember my mom and dad reading me stories about David and Goliath and Jesus walking on water, and lots of amazing stories from the Bible. And so I think what happened is I heard those stories, and then they kind of got into my heart. And I think they planted seeds of faith. Mm-hmm. And so even when I'm preaching now, sometimes I'll think back to those stories that my mom and dad read to me. So what I wanted to do was write a storybook with Bible stories for you. And I'm so happy that you joined us, and pretty special for me to be able to read from this book. And I think Pastor Amber is going to help show some of the pictures, but this one's special. Now, listen, your mom and dad, it's okay if they read it as well, but this is really for you. And so I'm excited to be able to read a story to you.
Awesome. We're excited for you to read it to us. Pastor Mark, can you tell us which story you're going to read tonight, and then take it away? I'll try my best to show the pictures, kids, so you can see them, because that's very important.
Do you think, can we handle a scary story? I don't know. Can we do kind of a scary one?
I think
this one is called In the Storm. And I wanted to pick it for a couple of reasons. One is that it's sort of the cover of the book. This is Jesus on the Sea of Galilee. And when a storm swept in, and storms can be pretty scary, especially when they make loud noises like thunder, and then you hear the lightning. So it's a little bit of a scary story, but I think you're going to be okay. Because I bet you're with your mom or your dad or someone that loves you. So are we, Pastor Amber, what do you think? Are we ready to go?
I think we're ready. NCC kids are pretty brave, so I think they're ready for the story.
I think you're right. So here we go. In the middle of the Sea of Galilee, a little fishing boat dipped up and down on the waves. So up and down like this. I don't know if you've ever been on a boat. I've actually been on a boat on the Sea of Galilee. Sometimes those waves, it makes you a little bit seasick. You can kind of feel it in your tummy a little bit. The boat bobbed and bounced on the water, but all that rocking didn't bother Jesus. He was tired out, curled up in a corner, his head on a comfy cushion. Jesus was taking a well-earned nap. Now, kids, can I let you in on a little secret? I bet some of you have a nap time. Am I right? And guess what? Pastor Mark is a little bit older than you. I don't know if I want you to guess how old I am. You can guess. I'm probably about as old as your parents. But I still take a nap sometimes, because sometimes I get tired out. So I kind of like this story because Jesus takes a nap. It says they knew this lake because they'd fished on it every day. That's what they did before following Jesus. Many of them were fishermen. And it says the disciples were in the little boat and they were getting worried, even though they knew the lake, because those winds started to get stronger and the waves started to get bigger, and they knew that they would soon be in terrible trouble. If a storm was on its way, the last place you want to be is in the middle of a lake. You want to get to shore really quick, but they couldn't do it. And so, here's what happened. The disciples, they grabbed the oars and they started rowing as hard as they could, but the wind was too strong, so they couldn't get back to shore. And they knew that it was too late. Have you ever noticed when those storm clouds kind of gather up in the sky, and then they started to hear thunder and it started to boom above their heads? Well, the wind picked up the waves and it threw them over the deck as the lightning split the sky. The disciples, they grabbed onto the sides of that boat and they held on as hard as they could, but the waves threatened to tip the boat over. They were scared. Now, through it all, Jesus stayed asleep. Can you believe that, kids? He stayed asleep. And so the disciples cried out, "Jesus, Jesus, save us. We're going to drown." They were so scared. Well, Jesus woke up, and guess what he said? He said, "Where is your faith? Why are you so afraid?" Listen, why do we sometimes get so afraid even though Jesus is there for us? It says that calmly he stood up in the little fishing boat and he held his hand out over the raging waters and he said two little words: "Be still." Have you ever had a teacher say to you, "Be still"? Or maybe your mom and dad say, "Be still." Sometimes it's really hard to be still. But Jesus wasn't talking to the disciples. He was talking to the waves. Well, immediately, just as if they recognized his voice, guess what? The wind and the waves obeyed his voice. Isn't that amazing? The water was still. The thunder was silent. The wind was hushed. Shh. And the storm was gone. The disciples sat down and they couldn't believe it. What kind of man is this who can command the wind and the waves and the water? Who else could say two tiny words and create one big miracle? The disciples shook their heads in wonder as they rowed to the shore on the calm, still waters of the Sea of Galilee. And that is a story from the Bible, from the Gospel of Matthew. And I hope, kids, that tonight, as you get tucked into bed, that sometimes we get scared like that, don't we? And sometimes we get afraid of the things around us. Maybe it's loud thunder, or maybe it's people who aren't nice. And so sometimes we get afraid too. But Jesus loves us. Jesus is there for us. And Jesus is the one that says, "Be still."
Wow, that was an awesome bedtime story, Pastor Mark.
I hope it wasn't too scary, right?
I don't know, kids. What do you think? It's scary? No? I think the fact that Jesus is there and he tells us to be still and that we can turn to him, I think that makes things that would be scary maybe not feel so scary anymore.
Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world.
It does. And I have to say that this book has beautiful illustrations. The artist did an amazing job.
And do you think I drew them, Pastor Amber?
I would, except it does have the illustrator's name on the cover. So, but I believe that you could if you wanted to.
Well, thank you for your faith in me. I did not. I did write it, but I didn't draw it.
That's awesome. It's a beautiful book, kids. So make sure you check it out. It has a lot of Bible stories. And like Pastor Mark was sharing some of his favorite Bible stories, some of the best stories you will ever read are in the Bible. And this book would be a really great way to look at some of those. So we hope you check it out.